You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, we got some players to watch in this game, John, that I'm pretty excited about. And lo and behold, Ole Miss has a running game this year. They have a running back that honestly, I've heard two people completely unrelated that aren't Ole Miss people that said he runs the ball like Derek McFadden. Now, he's a long strider, the upright stuff. Yeah, I'm not saying he's a Heisman candidate and he's not there yet, but whenever he was running around the corner, you could see that number 5, and he wears number 5 for Ole Miss. He's a good little back, and he's leading the SEC in rushing. I think that Kewan Lacey is the X factor in this ball game and could be the difference between a shootout for Ole Miss and a 10-point win because you were able to drain a little time off the clock.
You know, you started this podcast. You're like, hey, I may ask a question about Taylen Green that may be upsetting to some Razorback fans. And I was like, oh, that was a fair one. That one you just made is probably the one that pissed off all the Razorback fans. You don't compare anybody to Darren McFadden, no matter what. But no, listen, it is kind of one of those deals to where, not to say that Ole Miss has only been, a passing offense and never had any rushing attack. It's not that. It's just when you think of, at least from our perspective here at Arkansas, you think of Lane Kiffin, you think of that offense, you think of passing, you think of, Jackson Dart, you think of Matt Corral, and all of that. And so I think that that's something that they're definitely going to have to understand, that they can run the ball too. And this is going to be a much better test that Arkansas's had offensively. But the thing is, you mentioned the running back there. Arkansas also has a running back in Mike Washington, which we've seen a little bit of. I think he's actually right now the 4th leading rusher in the SEC, which is just funny because, again, opponents and all you've played. But all fall camp from coaches, we heard about Mike Washington saying, this guy's insane. He's so good. He's so good. Right. I mean, okay. Yeah, he came from New Mexico, I guess, whatever. And then Bobby Trino's like, oh, he reminds me of Nile Davis. I'm like, Nile Davis? Like, that guy was really good when he was healthy. And we got a little bit of it from this past weekend, but that's, to me, the biggest thing is that everyone talks about Taylen Green. Great player. Well, we mentioned Taylen Green. But Taylen Green's only going to be as good as the people around him. And I think that if Mike Washington's able to showcase that ability that we've been hearing about, that's going to be the best friend to Taylen Green to where he can make it work. So, but I think you got 2 really good running backs going into this. People talk about quarterbacks, but I think the running back matchup may be one that at the end of the season has 2 of the top 3 or 4 running backs in this matchup this weekend.
We were on the squad show talking about this game, and the squad show is going to air a little bit later on today. And we mentioned it's like we would not be surprised if it was 41-38, but we would also not be surprised if it was 17-13. And the running games, the more that we talk about the running games, I'm thinking this game could look a lot more like 2023 than the shootouts before it. I think that is something that is on the table.
I think so. I think that many times, at least when I'm going into a game like this, and I'm like, oh, it's going to be insane. It's going to be insanely high scoring. The only time I think that I actually felt that way and it ended up being that way was that game in 2021 in Oxford, where it's KJ Jefferson and them going back and forth. And Arkansas could have won the game they scored the last play of the game, could have had a 2-point conversion if they would have made it and won, but they didn't, and then ended up losing. But that was the only time where I went into it. I was like, oh yeah, this is going to be high scoring, and it worked out that way. A couple of years ago when Arkansas went 4-8 and went into Oxford, I guess the last time they played in Oxford, that game was weirdly close. It was like 27-20. Made no sense. Arkansas was not a good football team, but either way, the point is, I could see it being high scoring for sure. But anytime I see it that way, I want to revert almost back to the opposite. I want to say, hey, this is something where Arkansas is going to face a defense that's better than anything they faced. And it's going to be, how do they handle that? How do they handle getting hit in the mouth now? How do they handle dealing with that? And it's going to be the same thing with the defense. The defense has done a really good job so far this year in theory, but I don't know about Arkansas's D-line depth. It's not very good. Can you get pressure on Austin Simmons? I feel like the key to this is going to be the defensive line in general, but especially guys like Phillip Lee, who had a good game last night, a defensive end, as well as Quincy Rhodes. If they can get pressure on Austin Simmons, I feel great about that. Because not to say better than me, but I feel like looking at the things, Austin Simmons may not be the most confident quarterback right now, and had the picks, maybe a little bit banged up. We'll see, but if I'm Arkansas, I'm going to put him to the test as soon as possible in the game and see if he can result himself from it. But yeah, I'm with you though. I feel like we feel all about offense, but this is going to come down to which defense makes the least amount of mistakes.
Yeah, and if Arkansas fans want to feel pretty good about it, Bobby Petrino has kind of had Pete Golding's number a little bit over the last couple of meetings. He scored 31 points on Ole Miss's stacked defense a year ago that led the conference in scoring defense. At Texas A&M, he made Bax Johnson look like Tom freaking Brady in the second half, and it took a blocked field goal to win that game. So there is some nerves there by me about Bobby Petrino and Pete Golding and how that's going to go. But my theory on that is you've got to stop the explosive runs from Arkansas to stop the offense. Everybody's talking about Taylen Green being able to throw the ball or be able to run the ball. You have to be able to stop the running back, because if you can't, Bobby Petrino is going to play action you and eat you alive.
That's right. Yeah, I'm the biggest Bobby Petrino fan there is, because I've always said there's not any other offensive-minded coach that has had success everywhere he's been for 20 straight years. I mean, you see coaches with offensive minds phase out. Bobby's still cooking. Even back from like the early 2000s, he's still getting it done. And I'm with you. Taylen Green is a great player, and I love him, but that offense that he leads can't be one-dimensional where you have to rely on his arm, because if it's his arm or his legs are his strength over his arm. And if you're forcing him to have to just throw every time, that's not going to be a recipe for success. It's going to lead to turnovers. So I'm with you. Arkansas runs the ball effectively. That's going to be their best shot of getting this done with a win.
And the weird storyline of this game, there's 3 players from Arkansas that transferred to Ole Miss. It looks like all 3 of them are going to see the field in some capacity. Of course they would. I mean, they probably want to play. It looks like Luke Haas is a little bit less. It might be a package type deal, but it's going to be interesting because there's probably a little bit of animosity from Fayetteville down here for the way it worked out. The players that left felt that because, their social media has been destroyed for the last 8 months. So they want to perform really well, and they're all good players. That's the thing that gets forgotten. They can all play. That's the reason Arkansas fans are ticked off about this, is they can all play. And I don't know how it's going to look. I don't know if they're all ready to go, but I do think all 3 of them are going to be on the field.
Yeah, it's a kind of a weird dynamic because Arkansas had players transfer a lot of places. They had one of the most like the biggest transfers of them leaving the program of any team in the SEC last year. They had a player go to Texas, had a player go to Kentucky, had 2 players go to Michigan, player go to UCLA, all over the place. But when 3 of them that were starters and were considered to be some of your best players from last year's team go to Ole Miss, it stings a little bit more. I don't think, and again, this is my opinion, I don't think Razorback fans have the animosity for a Jalen Braxton, because he got banged up after 1 game and didn't play the rest of the season. You could almost tell he's like, yeah, this guy's gone. So it's like, you don't like that, but at the same time, you're like, hey, whatever. If you don't want to be here, don't want to be here. Luke they also, I don't think, maybe some do, but I don't think there's as much, because that was strictly a financial thing. Sam Pittman said it. It's like, hey, I mean, what do you want us to do? He got more to go over to Ole Miss. The Patrick Kudus one, though, is the one I think people take personally, because that was one that he didn't play much last year because he was banged up. Sam Pittman, and he's asked about, hey, do you redshirt Kudus because he hadn't played in full 4 games yet? And they're like, yeah, I think we're going to hold him to redshirt him. And he's like, and Pittman said this in the press conference. He's like, I made sure that I asked Coot, is when he called him Coot, hey, I'm not going to redshirt you just so you can go to some other school next year. And he's like, no, coach, I wouldn't do that. I want to stay here at Arkansas. Pittman felt that. And Pittman is big on relationships. He's big on offensive linemen, obviously. And I think that's the one that stung the most. And I think that's the one that's going to be the most motivation for Pittman, for everybody too. Because also, real quick, side note, we had an offensive lineman podcast on my network with Inside Arkansas back during that time. And Kudus went on it and said the team that he does not like the most is Ole Miss. He said that. He said that. So it's like that right there, I think, is going to be the most intense feeling. But Arkansas definitely wants to show those players that, hey, you missed out from not staying here.
Yeah, and is there a chance that Carmona gets into a fight in that game? Because I've read his quotes after all the transfer and all that. They're going to be ready to go whenever they get down to Vaught Hemingway Stadium. That they want this game. This has a chance to be sneaky, not necessarily a dirty game. That has negative connotations, but it's going to be an intense, heated game.
Mm-hmm. Well, as far as Carmona goes, I hope not, because we talked about it. Like, this game has a chance to be so close that one play can make the difference, and as long, if you do it in the first quarter and the first 5 minutes, it's not to say that's good, but you can overcome that, but you just don't want to let the emotions get the best of you. Sam Pittman, though, is not that way. Sam Pittman's not a coach that tells him these things and to go do these things. However, I could tell in the Monday press conference from Sam Pittman that this one means a little bit more in his own way. It's going to mean a little bit more. So who knows? Maybe you see some of that because they're going to go fight for their coach and they're going to go fight for Arkansas. I'll be like, oh, well, yeah, well, you want more money? Well, there's more to football than money. So we're going to show you, maybe it's that. But I think, honestly, it's just going to be about, going out there and executing. But I feel offensively, you bring up someone like Carmona or whoever, if Ole Miss's defense start causing some problems and some issues and mess with it a little bit, then you may see emotions get the best of them. It could happen. But to start, again, I hope not, just because I'd rather win, rather beat them. And also, it's not the Ole Miss team. It's not like Carmona's going up against Patrick Kudus himself. It's like, it's Jalen Braxton's way over there, and Haz and Kudus are on the other side of the ball. So I don't know if it'll be that case.
Yeah, and Sam Pittman is such a nice guy that literally everybody likes Sam Pittman that I've talked to, including me. So you get like, hey, we're going to get Arkansas. It's a big rival for Ole Miss. This is going to be a fantastic game, but it's not like I hate those guys. It's not like the Egg Bowl for Ole Miss fans. This is just a fun game. It's absolutely stupid. The athletes are comparable usually. And go out there and let's just see what kind of ridiculousness happens.
Yeah, I'm with you because, just looking at it recently, I know we talked about the history of these teams, but one of my favorite things, I know Razorback fans love the fact that the Hunter Henry heave play kept the Ole Miss Rebels out of the SEC title game for their first time to be in it. Like, we like that. That's kind of funny, because it's so stupid that's what kept them out. But things like that, I think stick with people. And same thing with Ole Miss. Like, I don't think Ole Miss ruined any season for Arkansas or any chances of it, but there has been so many times where Arkansas may have felt like they were better than Ole Miss and they lose. And then there's times I'm sure that Ole Miss felt like they were better than Arkansas and they lost. I think back to that game in Fayetteville, I guess in 2022, Arkansas, every game they played was a one possession game. They were a 6-6 team. They had gotten blown out in some cases, it seemed like, but they blow out Ole Miss at home. Everyone's like, why? Like, why did this happen? So it's just, it's nothing about like the animosity towards Ole Miss itself or any of that. It's more of just the animosity of the similarity of it and also the weirdness to where we're just hoping that we're not the one that is on the bad end of the weird game this time around.
Yeah, and I think it was Danny West that had a tweet like 5 years ago that says no team from Arkansas should never lose to either team from Mississippi in anything. And since then, Mississippi State and Ole Miss have won baseball national champions. The football team at Ole Miss is cooking. It is the all-time boomerang tweet that I can think of.
Yeah, no, and that's what's really upsetting. Thank you for bringing it up about Ole Miss and Mississippi State winning baseball titles for Arkansas. It's great. But I will say, though, to be honest, your fans may not like this, but Arkansas fans in general feel about their program that football, generally speaking, should be just as good, if not better, than Ole Miss. Now, I'm not taking anything away from them. I'm not saying that Arkansas is going into this looking down upon Ole Miss. I think Razorback fans say, well, you got Lane Kiffin. We got Sam Pittman. And it's like, okay, yeah, you're winning because you got Lane Kiffin, not because you're Ole Miss. It's because you got Lane Kiffin. Razorback fans view it in the lens of, if you got two great coaches going at it, two great programs going at it, two great rosters going at it, if everything's even on the field itself, Arkansas is always going to win. That's how they view it. Mm-hmm. Now, it hasn't been even.
And honestly, that's how they should view it, honestly, or else why be a fan?
Exactly. And I think also, too, when Hugh Freeze was at Ole Miss, Arkansas had a lot of success against him. And I think that's also added because that, at the time, and you know this, Steven, that was at the time viewed as like the greatest run of Ole Miss football to that point that they had in a long time. And Arkansas fans were like, yeah, even in their best, they still can't beat us. So
yeah, they couldn't beat Burt. Oh my goodness, they couldn't beat Burt.
For whatever reason, I could not understand. But I think there's a big element of that too.
Yeah. So it should be pretty good. All right, when we come back, we'll talk about paths to victory And what is our prediction for this game? Honestly, I'm not at a number yet, but I will get there hopefully by the time we make a prediction. So stick around. Super thanks to John Nabors from Locked On Razorbacks for joining us. And thank you for making Locked On Ole Miss your go-to source for Ole Miss sports. We pride ourselves on offering the most comprehensive perspectives, which is why we're the front door of Ole Miss. If you don't believe us, Google Ole Miss Podcast. We're like 80% of that page. So don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. It helps the show, and it is totally free. Your support means the world to us. And in another big moment for Locked On, college football fans, Locked On and Fire TV present College Football Kickoff, your ultimate college football weekly preview. Drake Toll of Locked On Big 12 leads the conversation alongside two-time AP Coach of the Year, Gary Patterson, former college star Jesse Holley, and Locked On's local experts. A college football preview only Locked On can do. Catch College Football Kickoff every Thursday throughout the season, only on Fire TV. Howdy toddy, everybody. And remember, analytics is just the old English word meaning bad football. We'll see you later.